Don't watch this! The package arrived on a Thursday morning, wrapped in brown paper with no return address. Just my name printed in block letters and a Milwaukee postmark from 3 days ago. I almost threw it away. Almost. My mail usually consisted of bills and grocery store flyers, nothing that required actual packaging. I turned it over twice before cutting through the tape. Inside was a USB drive taped to an index card. The card had one sentence written in blue ink. Your son didn't die the way they told you. My hands went numb. My son. Ethan. Dead for 8 months. Overdose, they said. Fentanyl-laced heroin found in his dorm room at the university. 20 years old. Gone. The funeral had been closed casket because of how they'd found him. I'd spent every day since trying to forget those details. I plugged the USB into my laptop with shaking hands. One folder appeared. Inside were 6 video files, each labeled with a date. The first date was 3 days before Ethan died. I double-clicked. The video opened with shaky footage of a lecture hall, students filing in, backpacks dropping, laptops opening. The camera focused on a man at the front adjusting a microphone. Professor Leonard Vaughn. I recognized him from the memorial service. He'd given a speech about Ethan's potential, how bright his future had been. The lecture started. Vaughn discussed criminal psychology, case studies of manipulation and control, standard stuff. Then, around the 15-minute mark, Vaughn's eyes locked onto someone in the front row. The camera zoomed. Ethan. My son sat there taking notes, completely unaware. Vaughn smiled. Not a normal smile. Something predatory. He continued teaching, but kept glancing at Ethan every few minutes. The video ended after an hour. I opened the second file. Same lecture hall, different day. This time the camera followed Ethan after class. He packed up slowly, clearly waiting for other students to leave. Vaughn approached him. They talked. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but Ethan looked uncomfortable. He kept glancing at the door. Vaughn put his hand on Ethan's shoulder. Friendly. Too friendly. The gesture lasted too long. Ethan finally nodded and left. Vaughn watched him go with that same smile. The third video showed Ethan entering an office. Vaughn's office, based on the nameplate visible in the frame. The camera angle suggested someone had hidden it on a bookshelf. Ethan sat down. Vaughn closed the door, locked it. That detail made my stomach turn. For the next 40 minutes, I watched Vaughn systematically break down my son's boundaries. Questions about his family, his relationships, his insecurities. Every time Ethan tried to deflect, Vaughn pushed harder. Personal questions disguised as academic interest. Your father works in construction? Vaughn asked. Blue-collar background. That must make university challenging. Do you feel out of place here? Like you don't belong? Ethan's face confirmed it. That was exactly how he felt. Vaughn leaned forward. I can help with that. I mentor students from disadvantaged backgrounds, private sessions, one-on-one guidance. Would you be interested? Ethan hesitated, then agreed. The video ended. File 4, another office session. This time Vaughn offered Ethan a drink. Whiskey. To celebrate your midterm score, he said. Ethan declined at first, but Vaughn insisted. Just one. You've earned it. Ethan took the glass. They toasted. Drank. Vaughn refilled Ethan's glass twice more during the session. By the end, my son was clearly intoxicated. His words slurred, his movements uncoordinated. Vaughn helped him to the couch. Rest here until you feel better, he said. The camera kept rolling. Vaughn sat in his chair watching Ethan for 10 minutes before the video cut out. I had to stop. Walk away. Process what I was seeing. Some professor had been grooming my son, recording it. But why send this to me now? And who recorded it? I made coffee I wouldn't drink and stared at my laptop screen. 2 files left. I needed to finish. File 5 started differently. No lecture hall, no office. This was Vaughn's home. I could see personal photos on the walls, family pictures, a wife, 2 kids. The camera showed Ethan on a couch, conscious but barely responsive. His eyes were open but unfocused, drugged. Vaughn sat beside him holding a syringe. This won't hurt, he said. Just a small dose. You'll feel amazing. He injected something into Ethan's arm. My son didn't resist, couldn't resist. Vaughn waited, watching. Ethan's expression changed. Fear became euphoria. Vaughn nodded, satisfied. Good. Now we're going to have some fun. I closed the laptop. Couldn't watch more. Not yet. My son. My boy. Someone had done this to him. Documented it. The police had ruled it an accidental overdose. Case closed. No investigation. Just another college kid who made bad choices. But this wasn't choices. This was systematic abuse. I opened my phone and called Detective Ray Kowalski. He'd handled Ethan's case. Nice enough guy. Apologetic. Said he'd seen too many cases like this. Young people experimenting, not knowing the dangers. I need you to reopen my son's case, I said. I have evidence. Video evidence. Kowalski sighed. Mr. Brenner, I understand you're still grieving, but this isn't grief talking. Someone was drugging my son, on camera. I have proof. Silence. Then, what kind of proof? Videos, 6 of them, showing a professor manipulating Ethan, giving him drugs. Another pause. Professor Vaughn? My blood went cold. You know about him? Bring the evidence to the station. Don't watch the last video until I've seen everything. Can you do that? Why? Just trust me. Bring it now. I drove to the police station with the USB drive clutched in my hand. Kowalski met me in a conference room, looking grim. He plugged the drive into a computer and started watching. His expression didn't change, but his jaw tightened with each video. When File 5 ended, he stopped. Where did you get this? Someone mailed it to me. No return address. Did you watch File 6? Not yet. You told me not to. He nodded slowly. Good. Because that video shows your son's murder. And the person who recorded it is the same person who killed him. The room spun. Murder. Ethan was murdered. Kowalski continued. Professor Vaughn has been under investigation for 3 months. We suspected he was involved in several student deaths over the past 5 years. Always ruled as overdoses. Always with fentanyl. But we couldn't prove connection until now. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because we had no evidence. Vaughn's careful. He's tenured. Connected. Every time we got close, he'd lawyer up and shut us down. But these videos change everything. Who recorded them? I don't know yet, but whoever did was close to Vaughn, had access to his office, his home, someone he trusted. Kowalski opened File 6. I forced myself to watch. The video showed Vaughn's living room. Ethan was unconscious on the couch. Vaughn stood over him with a syringe. But this time, someone else was there. A woman, mid-30s, dark hair. She held the camera steady while Vaughn prepared the injection. Are you sure about this? She asked. Her voice. I knew that voice. It has to be done, Vaughn replied. He knows too much. Saw too much. If he talks, we're both finished. He trusted you. That's why this works. No one will question an overdose. Another tragic statistic. Vaughn injected Ethan with a massive dose. My son's body convulsed once, then went still. The woman filming didn't react, just kept recording. Vaughn checked for a pulse. Done. Call it in tomorrow. Make it look like you found him during a welfare check. The woman lowered the camera. The video ended. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. When I returned, Kowalski had frozen the last frame. Enhanced it. The woman's face clearly visible. Do you recognize her? I did. Rachel Tomlin, Ethan's academic advisor. She'd helped him choose classes, plan his schedule. She'd been at the funeral, hugged me, told me how sorry she was, said she should have noticed the signs. All of it lies. She'd killed my son and comforted me afterward. We need to bring them both in, Kowalski said. But carefully. Vaughn's connected to the university board. Tomlin's father is a state senator. If they get warning, they'll disappear. How many students? I asked. How many did they kill? We suspect at least 6, but proving it without more evidence is impossible. These videos are the breakthrough we needed. Why send them to me? Why now? Kowalski stared at the screen. Someone with access wanted them caught. Someone who knew what they were doing and documented everything. The question is, why wait 8 months? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. Check your email. Folder labeled The Others. More evidence. They need to pay. I showed Kowalski. He immediately called his tech team. Trace this number. Now. But we both knew it wouldn't work. Whoever sent those videos was careful. Deliberate. I opened my email on my phone. The folder was there. Inside were medical records, autopsy reports, police files, 6 students, all ruled overdoses. All had Vaughn as their professor, all had Tomlin as their advisor. The pattern was obvious. How had no one noticed? They covered for each other, Kowalski explained. Vaughn would identify vulnerable students. Tomlin would arrange private meetings, create opportunities. Vaughn would groom them, introduce drugs. If someone got suspicious or threatened to talk, they'd eliminate them, stage it as an accident. Why? Some people don't need reasons beyond power and control. Vaughn's a psychologist. He studied manipulation his entire career. Tomlin enables him. They've been doing this for at least 8 years. Another text. Vaughn's at his office. Tomlin's meeting him there in 20 minutes. If you want justice, move now. Kowalski grabbed his radio. All units converge on Riverside University Psychology Building. Suspects Leonard Vaughn and Rachel Tomlin. Approach with caution. He looked at me. Stay here. Let us handle this. No, I'm coming. Mr. Brenner. That's my son they murdered. I'm coming. He didn't argue. The drive took 15 minutes. 4 police cars surrounded the psychology building. Officers positioned at every exit. Kowalski led me through the main entrance. Students scattered, phones out, filming everything. We took the stairs to the 3rd floor. Vaughn's office. The door was ajar. Voices inside. Kowalski drew his weapon, signaled the other officers. They moved in fast. Vaughn sat at his desk. Tomlin stood by the window. Both looked up as police entered. Vaughn's face went pale. What's the meaning of this? Leonard Vaughn, Rachel Tomlin, you're under arrest for the murder of Ethan Brenner and 5 other students. Tomlin bolted for the window. An officer grabbed her. She fought, screamed. We didn't kill anyone. They were accidents. All of them. Vaughn stood slowly, calculated. I want my lawyer. You'll get one, Kowalski said. Right after we read you your rights. They were cuffed, led out. Students lined the hallway, filming on their phones. By the time we reached the parking lot, news vans had arrived, reporters shouting questions. Vaughn kept his head down. Tomlin kept screaming about her father, about lawsuits, about how we'd regret this. I watched them loaded into separate cars and felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction. Just emptiness. Kowalski approached. The videos will hold up in court. We've got them. What about the person who recorded everything? We'll find them. But honestly, Mr. Brenner, whoever it is did us a favor. Without those videos, Vaughn and Tomlin would have kept killing. They already did. 6 times. He nodded. I'm sorry for what happened to Ethan, for not catching them sooner. I didn't respond. Sorry didn't bring my son back. The arrest made national news within hours. University professor and academic advisor charged with multiple murders. Social media exploded. Students came forward with stories of uncomfortable interactions with Vaughn, near misses, red flags ignored. The university released a statement expressing shock and pledging full cooperation with the investigation. But I knew better. They'd ignored complaints for years, prioritized reputation over safety. Now they'd pay for that choice. My phone rang constantly. Reporters wanting interviews, lawyers offering representation for civil suits, other parents whose children had died asking if their cases might be connected. I ignored most of it. Couldn't process the attention while still reeling from the videos, from watching my son's murder, from knowing someone had documented it all and waited 8 months to act. Kowalski called that evening. We searched Vaughn's home and office, found journals, detailed records of every student he targeted over the past decade. Ethan wasn't the 6th victim, he was the 14th. My stomach dropped. 14 students, 14 families destroyed. Why weren't the others investigated? Different jurisdictions, different circumstances. Some at other universities before Vaughn came here. He's been doing this his entire career, 30 years, moving when things got risky, always covering his tracks. And Tomlin? She's been with him for 12 years. They met at a conference. She was a graduate student. He groomed her too, turned her into an accomplice. They're both sociopaths, Mr. Brenner, true predators. But we've got them now. They won't hurt anyone else. What about the person who recorded everything? Still working on that. The package was mailed from a location with no security cameras, paid cash. No witnesses remember who dropped it off. Whoever they are, they're good at staying invisible. Another text arrived. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Riverside Park, South Bench. Come alone. I'll explain everything. I showed Kowalski. It's a trap, he said immediately. Or it's the person who sent the videos, the only one who can explain why they waited. We'll be watching. Plainclothes officers everywhere. You won't be alone even if it looks like you are. What if they see the police and run? Then we'll never know who they are. But your safety matters more than answers. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about those videos. About someone watching Ethan die and doing nothing to stop it. About 8 months of silence while I grieved. What kind of person does that? What possible justification exists? By morning, rage had replaced shock. I needed answers. Needed to understand. Riverside Park was busy at 10 a.m. Joggers, dog walkers, parents with strollers. I sat on the south bench and waited. Kowalski had pointed out 3 plainclothes officers positioned nearby. I couldn't spot them. Good. 10 minutes passed. 20. I was about to leave when someone sat down, beside me. A woman. Late 20s. Red hair, green eyes. She wore sunglasses and a baseball cap pulled low. Mr. Brenner, she said quietly. Thank you for coming. Who are you? Someone who spent 3 years making sure Vaughn and Tomlin would pay for what they did. Someone who recorded every moment, documented every crime, and waited for the right time to destroy them. You watched my son die? My voice shook. I did, and it's something I'll carry forever. But I had no choice. You could have stopped it, could have warned him, could have called police. And they would have destroyed the evidence, gotten away with it, killed more students. I needed ironclad proof, needed them to feel safe, to confess on camera. That took time. She handed me a folder. Inside were documents, photographs, financial records. Vaughn and Tomlin aren't the only ones responsible. The university knew. Administrators received complaints going back 15 years. They buried them, paid settlements, forced victims to sign NDAs, all to protect their reputation and Vaughn's research grants. He brought in millions. They didn't care how many students died as long as the money kept flowing. I flipped through the documents. Names I recognized. University president, dean of students, legal counsel, all documented covering up complaints, intimidating victims, destroying evidence. How did you get this? I worked at the university, not as faculty, as staff, invisible, someone no one paid attention to. I had access to everything, databases, files, offices. I spent 3 years gathering evidence, not just against Vaughn and Tomlin, against everyone who enabled them. Why Ethan? Why let him die? She removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, haunted. Because by the time I realized they were planning to kill him, intervening would have exposed me. Blown 3 years of work. I made a choice. One life to save dozens, maybe hundreds. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, and I hate myself for it. but it was the right choice. I don't believe you. I don't expect you to. But the evidence speaks for itself. Vaughn and Tomlin are in custody. The university's being investigated. 14 families finally have answers. That wouldn't have happened without those videos. Who are you, really? Someone who lost everything to Vaughn. Someone who spent years planning revenge. That's all you need to know. She stood. The folder contains everything you need to destroy the university's administration. Use it however you see fit. I'm done. I got my justice. Now you get yours. She walked away. I didn't follow. Kowalski appeared moments later. We lost her. She went into the restroom. Never came out. Must have had an exit strategy planned. I opened the folder again. The documents were explosive. Smoking gun evidence of systematic cover-ups, conspiracy to obstruct justice, fraud, witness tampering. If this got out, the university would face criminal charges, civil suits, possible closure. Thousands of students would lose their education. But justice demanded consequences. Not just for Vaughn and Tomlin, for everyone who helped them. I gave the documents to Kowalski. He read through them. His face got harder with each page. This is RICO territory. Federal prosecutors will want this. Do it. All of it. I want everyone who knew and did nothing to pay. Mr. Brenner, this will destroy the university. Impact thousands of innocent people. My son was innocent. So were the other 13. Where was their protection? Where was their justice? He nodded. I'll make the calls. The federal investigation launched within days. FBI agents descended on the university, seized computers, interrogated staff. Students were sent home while investigators combed through decades of records. The media coverage was relentless. Every news cycle brought new revelations. More victims, more cover-ups, more people whose careers and reputations crumbled under scrutiny. University President Charles Whitmore resigned first. His statement claimed ignorance, said he'd delegated oversight and trusted the wrong people. The documents proved otherwise. He'd personally signed off on settlements, approved payments to silence victims, even written memos instructing staff to handle the Vaughn situation quietly. He was arrested a week later, Dean of Students. Patricia Kemp tried running, got as far as Canada before being extradited. She'd been Vaughn's closest ally, arranged his teaching schedule to give him access to vulnerable students, warned him when complaints came in, even helped drug students at university events. Her emails showed premeditation, planning, enjoyment. She wasn't just complicit, she was a participant. The university's legal counsel, David Frank, cut a deal immediately, testified against everyone else in exchange for reduced charges. His testimony revealed the scope of the conspiracy, how deep it went, how many people knew, how carefully they'd protected Vaughn because his research brought prestige and funding. Frank provided recordings of meetings where administrators discussed managing the optics of student deaths, treating murders like public relations problems. Tomlin's father, State Senator Richard Tomlin, held a press conference denying knowledge of his daughter's crimes, claimed she'd been manipulated by Vaughn. The evidence showed otherwise. Rachel had been an active participant, enjoyed the power, recruited victims. Her father's real concern was his political career. Within days, recordings surfaced of him calling in favors, trying to make Rachel's charges disappear, attempting to intimidate witnesses. He resigned before facing ethics violations and possible criminal charges himself. The families of the other victims reached out. 13 families united by tragedy. We met at a lawyer's office to discuss civil suits. The attorney, a woman named Gloria Reeves, specialized in institutional abuse cases. She'd read the documents, seen the evidence. This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've handled, she said. The university knew. Administrators knew. They consciously chose to protect a serial killer operating on their campus. The liability is astronomical. We're not interested in money, one mother said. Her son, Derek Walsh, had been Vaughn's second victim 8 years ago. We want accountability, want them destroyed. You'll get both, Gloria promised. The criminal cases will put people in prison. Our civil suits will bankrupt the institution. No university will ever ignore this kind of pattern again. Not after we're done. The preliminary hearing for Vaughn and Tomlin was scheduled 3 months after their arrest. The prosecutor, a federal attorney named James Kozlowski, met with us beforehand. They're both pleading not guilty, he explained, claiming the videos are fabricated, that someone framed them. Their lawyers will attack the chain of custody, question the source, try to create reasonable doubt. But you have confessions on video, I said, them discussing murders, planning them. And we'll use every second of that footage. But defense attorneys earn their money by creating doubt. We need to be prepared for a fight. The hearing itself was chaos. Media everywhere. Protesters outside holding signs. Some supporting Vaughn, claiming he was being scapegoated. Others demanding justice. Campus closed for security. The courtroom packed with victims' families, students, university staff. Vaughn entered first. Orange jumpsuit, shackles. He looked smaller, older. Nothing like the confident professor from the videos. Tomlin came next. She'd lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes. Both sat at the defense table refusing to look at anyone. The prosecutor played portions of the videos. The judge watched in silence. Vaughn's lawyer objected repeatedly, claimed the videos were prejudicial, inadmissible, should be excluded. The judge denied every objection. The jury will see these videos, she said firmly. They're central to the prosecution's case. Defense can challenge authenticity during trial, but for purposes of this hearing, they establish probable cause for the charges. Vaughn's composure finally cracked. He started crying, claiming he'd been set up, that someone doctored the videos to destroy him. The judge ordered him removed when he wouldn't stop. Tomlin's lawyer tried a different approach, argued she'd been Vaughn's victim too, manipulated and controlled. The prosecutor countered with evidence showing Rachel's active participation. Emails where she suggested targets, text messages coordinating meetings, bank records showing she'd profited from Vaughn's research grants. This wasn't manipulation, Kozlowski said. This was partnership. Rachel Tomlin is just as responsible for these murders as Leonard Vaughn. The judge agreed. Both were held without bail pending trial. Walking out of the courthouse, a reporter shoved a microphone in my face. Mr. Brenner, how does it feel seeing your son's killer in custody? It doesn't feel like anything, I said honestly. My son's still dead. Justice won't bring him back, but maybe it'll prevent other families from going through this. Do you blame the university? I blame everyone who knew and did nothing. Everyone who prioritized reputation over safety. Everyone who treated murdered students like inconvenient statistics. They're all responsible. The interview went viral. Other families gave similar statements. Public opinion turned completely against the university. Enrollment plummeted. Donors withdrew funding. Faculty resigned. The Board of Trustees voted to close the school pending the outcome of criminal and civil proceedings. Thousands of students scrambled to transfer, their educations disrupted by an institution's failure to protect them. I received another package a week later. Same brown paper, same block letters, different postmark. Seattle this time. Inside was a thumb drive and a note. The university had insurance, policies specifically covering criminal acts by employees. They'll claim bankruptcy to avoid paying victims. Don't let them. The policy documents are on this drive. Expose them. I gave everything to Gloria. She read through the documents, smiled grimly. They took out a $50 million policy covering exactly this scenario. Paid premiums for 12 years. They knew Vaughn was a liability and insured against it rather than stopping him. The revelation made headlines. Proof the university had anticipated Vaughn's crimes, had financially prepared for victims rather than preventing them. Public outrage reached new levels. Federal prosecutors added fraud charges, conspiracy, racketeering. The university president and 3 administrators were indicted alongside Vaughn and Tomlin. A conspiracy spanning years. Dozens of people involved, all to protect one serial killer. Vaughn's trial began 6 months after his arrest. The prosecution called witnesses for 3 weeks. Students who'd been groomed but escaped. Staff who'd reported concerns and been silenced. Expert witnesses explaining manipulation tactics. Each testimony built the case, showed the pattern, demonstrated premeditation. The defense tried attacking credibility, suggesting false memories, claiming conspiracy. Nothing worked. The evidence was overwhelming. When the videos played in court, the jury watched in horror. Several members cried. One had to be excused after becoming physically ill. The defense objected again, moved for mistrial, argued the videos were too prejudicial. The judge denied it. This is what the defendant did, she said. The jury needs to see the truth, no matter how disturbing. Vaughn sat motionless throughout. No reaction, no emotion, like watching footage of someone else's crimes. Rachel Tomlin testified against him in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her attorney had negotiated a deal, life with possibility of parole after 35 years instead of life without. She took the stand and told everything. How Vaughn recruited her, trained her, made her complicit. He told me we were helping students, she claimed, that introducing them to drugs was therapeutic. I believed him. The prosecutor destroyed her testimony on cross-examination, showed emails where Rachel discussed getting rid of problematic students, text messages joking about overdoses. She wasn't a victim. She was a willing participant who'd turned on her partner to save herself. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. 14 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy, drug trafficking. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. Vaughn was led out in shackles. His wife sat in the gallery crying. She'd testified she knew nothing, had no idea what her husband was doing, but investigators found journals in their home, his detailed accounts of each murder. She'd lived with that evidence for years, known and said nothing. She'd faced charges too. Sentencing day came. The judge allowed victim impact statements. 13 families spoke. Mothers, fathers, siblings, each describing what they'd lost, the futures stolen, the pain of grief. Some spoke directly to Vaughn, asking why, demanding answers. He stared straight ahead, gave them nothing. When my turn came, I stood at the podium and looked at him. You destroyed my son because you could, I said. Because you enjoyed power. Because institutions protected you. Because people like Rachel enabled you. Ethan trusted you, believed you cared, and you murdered him for that trust. I hope every day in prison reminds you of what you are. A predator, a coward, a monster who deserves every second of suffering coming to you. The judge sentenced him to 14 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. You will die in prison, Mr. Vaughn, she said. You will never breathe free air again, never hurt another student, never experience anything beyond the walls that will contain you for the rest of your natural life. Take him away. He was removed. I felt nothing, No satisfaction, no closure, just emptiness. Rachel's sentencing was separate. She'd gotten her deal. Life with parole possibility after 35 years. She'd be 70 before eligible. Might never get out. Probably wouldn't survive prison. Inmates don't tolerate people who hurt children, and college students weren't that different. She looked at me before being led away, mouthed, "I'm sorry." I turned away. Her apology meant nothing. The university administrators faced their own trials over the following year. President Whitmore got 20 years for conspiracy and obstruction. Dean Kemp got 30 for her active participation. Legal counsel Frank got 10 for his cooperation. 7 others received sentences ranging from 5 to 15 years. The institution itself was dissolved, assets liquidated to pay victim settlements. The campus purchased by another university that promised complete restructuring of oversight and safety systems. The civil suits resulted in a combined settlement of $300 million. Split among 14 families and dozens of other students, Vaughn had harmed but not killed. My portion was $20 million. I didn't want it, didn't want blood money. But Gloria convinced me to take it and do something meaningful. I established a foundation in Ethan's name, dedicated to protecting students from predatory faculty, funding background checks, training staff to recognize warning signs, supporting victims, preventing other families from experiencing what we'd endured. The mysterious woman who'd sent the evidence never contacted me again after that meeting in the park. Police investigated but found nothing. No identity, no trail. Whoever she was had disappeared completely. But her evidence had destroyed a conspiracy, brought justice to 14 families, changed university policies nationwide. Every institution now had to report and investigate complaints, couldn't silence victims, couldn't prioritize reputation over safety. One person had made that happen. I thought about her constantly in those first years after the trial. Who was she? What connection did she have to Vaughn? Why spend 3 years documenting crimes? The questions haunted me. Then, 2 years after Vaughn's conviction, I received an email, anonymous sender, encrypted. Subject line, final answers. The email contained a video file. I hesitated before opening it. Another recording. More evidence? The video started with a woman's face, the same woman from the park, red hair, green eyes, but older, tired. She was in a hotel room, generic, could have been anywhere. "Mr. Brenner," she began, "you deserve to know the truth, who I am, why I did this. I'm recording this because I'm about to disappear forever. This will be the last time anyone sees my face or hears my voice." She paused, took a breath. My name was Jessica Wallace. Was, because that person doesn't exist anymore. 15 years ago, I was a student at Riverside University. Leonard Vaughn was my professor, my advisor, my rapist. He drugged me, assaulted me, told me I'd never be believed if I reported it. He was right. I tried. The university buried my complaint, threatened me with academic dismissal if I pursued it, paid me $50,000 to sign an NDA and disappear. I took the money, transferred schools, spent years in therapy trying to heal. Tears streamed down her face. But I never healed, because I knew he was still there, still teaching, still hurting students, and no one would stop him. So I decided I would. I changed my name, my appearance, everything. Applied for a job at the university. Got hired as a custodian. No one notices custodians. We're invisible. I had access to every building, every office, every computer system. I spent 3 years gathering evidence, installing cameras, recording everything. I watched him target student after student, drug them, assault them, and when one of them threatened to expose him, I watched him murder them. She wiped her eyes. I could have stopped it, could have gone to police after the first murder, but I knew how it would end. Vaughn would get a good lawyer. The university would destroy evidence. He'd walk free, and I'd have nothing but accusations. So I waited, documented everything, let more people die so I could guarantee he'd never escape justice. That decision destroyed me, made me complicit in their deaths, but it was the only way to be sure he'd pay. Ethan was the breaking point. I tried warning him, sent anonymous messages, begged him to stay away from Vaughn. He didn't listen. When I realized they were planning to kill him, I had one choice. Stop them and lose all evidence, or let it happen and ensure conviction. I chose justice over mercy. Let your son die so I could destroy the monster who'd hurt so many others. I don't expect forgiveness. Don't want it. What I did was unforgivable, but it was necessary. She leaned closer to the camera. The documents I gave you about the university's insurance and cover-ups, I stole those from President Whitmore's home, broke in, photographed everything, mailed them to you. The testimony Rachel Tomlin gave? I fed her that information through her lawyer, made sure she'd turn on Vaughn. Everything that happened, every piece of evidence, every revelation, I orchestrated all of it, because I spent 15 years planning revenge, and I got it. By the time you see this, I'll be gone. New identity, new country, new life. The person you knew as Jessica Wallace died in a car accident 3 days ago. At least, that's what the death certificate will say. I hired someone to stage it, to give me freedom. Now I can live knowing the man who destroyed me, who destroyed your son, who destroyed so many others, will die in prison. That's worth everything I sacrificed. She stood, walked to the hotel window, looked out at a city I didn't recognize. I'm sorry about Ethan. Truly. He didn't deserve what happened. None of them did. But his death stopped a serial killer, exposed a corrupt institution, changed policies nationwide. That has to mean something. It has to matter. Because if it doesn't, then I let him die for nothing. And I can't live with that. The video ended. I sat in silence for an hour, processing, understanding. She'd been Vaughn's victim first, had spent 15 years planning revenge, had watched people die to ensure justice. The weight of that decision, the guilt, the trauma. She'd sacrificed her soul to stop a monster, and succeeded. But at what cost? I never shared the video, kept it encrypted on a secure drive. Jessica Wallace, whoever she really was, deserved her escape, deserved peace after years of suffering. She'd done what the system couldn't, stopped a predator, saved countless future victims. The methods were questionable, the morality debatable, but the results spoke for themselves. 3. Years after Vaughn's conviction, I received one final message, physical letter, postmarked from Argentina. Inside was a photograph, a woman on a beach, different hair color, different style, but the eyes were the same, green, haunted. On the back, written in that familiar blue ink, I found peace. Hope you have too. Thank you for understanding, for not judging, for letting me disappear. Some monsters can only be stopped by becoming one yourself. I became what I needed to be. Now I can finally rest. I burned the letter, destroyed the photograph, erased any evidence she'd existed. She'd earned that protection, earned her freedom, and I'd earned understanding, not agreement, not approval, but understanding of why she'd made her impossible choices. Sometimes justice requires sacrifices. Sometimes stopping evil means becoming something dark yourself. Sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to let some of them die. Ethan's grave sits under an oak tree in Riverside Cemetery. I visit every week, tell him about the foundation, about the students we've helped, about the predators we've caught, about the lives saved because he died. It doesn't make his death worthwhile, nothing could, but it gives his death meaning, purpose, legacy. The foundation has identified and removed 12 predatory faculty members from universities across the country, provided support to hundreds of victims, changed policies at dozens of institutions, every life saved, every predator caught, every system improved. That's Ethan's legacy. That's what his death accomplished. Not because he chose it, but because someone made his murder mean something. I think about Jessica Wallace often. Wonder if she really found peace. Wonder if the guilt ever fades. Wonder if she regrets letting people die to catch a killer. I'll never know. She disappeared completely. Became a ghost. A myth. The woman who documented evil and destroyed it at terrible cost. Some people call her a hero. Others call her a murderer. I call her something else. Necessary. Because the world has monsters. Real ones. People like Leonard Vaughn who hurt the vulnerable and hide behind institutions. And sometimes, stopping them requires someone willing to become monstrous themselves, to make impossible choices, to sacrifice innocence for the greater good. That's not heroism, that's tragedy, but it's also reality. 5 years after everything, I remarried. A woman named Linda who lost her daughter to a different predator. We bonded over shared trauma, built something new from mutual pain. She understands the empty space inside, the anger that never fully fades, the need to prevent others from suffering. We run the foundation together, make Ethan's death matter every single day. The nightmares still come, watching those videos, seeing my son drugged and murdered, knowing someone watched it happen and did nothing to stop it. But I understand now. Understand the impossible mathematics of sacrifice. One life to save many, to save. Evil stopped at terrible cost. Jessica Wallace made that choice, lived with that weight, and I have to respect it even if I can't fully accept it. Sometimes late at night, I imagine her on that beach in Argentina. Red hair turned blonde, green eyes hidden behind sunglasses, living a quiet life, far from the monsters she destroyed. I hope she found what she was looking for. Hope the guilt doesn't consume her. Hope she knows that 14 families got justice because of her. That countless future victims were saved because she documented evil and waited for the right moment to destroy it. That's not forgiveness. I can't forgive letting my son die. But it's understanding. Recognition that stopping Vaughn required sacrifice, required someone willing to become invisible, to watch horrors, to make brutal choices. Jessica Wallace was that person. And the world is safer because she existed. Ethan would be 25 now, graduated, working, maybe married, living the life Vaughn stole, but his death stopped a serial killer, changed university safety systems nationwide, created a foundation that protects thousands of students. That has to matter, has to mean something, because if it doesn't, then Jessica Wallace let him die for nothing, and I refuse to believe that. Justice came at terrible cost, 14 lives lost, countless others damaged, but it came. Monsters were caged, systems changed, victims protected, and one woman disappeared into the wind, carrying the weight of impossible choices. That's the truth. Ugly, brutal, real. And somehow, I've learned to live with it. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.